We help a ton of people relocate to the Twin Cities, and the biggest concern, bar none, is will I be able to tolerate the winter? If that sounds like you, then stick around for this video. I'm gonna give you a big list of items that are gonna make winter just so much easier. Stick around. We're actually going to be giving away a pretty sweet winter essentials basket with also one sort of what I think of as winter luxury item. So stick around. I'm going to tell you at some point during this video how you can enter to win this, but it's going to include a bunch of the stuff that I'm talking about in this video, a bunch of the stuff that I went out and bought for this video, for this giveaway. To start this video, I'm gonna start with like the things that you and your person are going to need, and I'm gonna start with an obvious one, which is coat, indoor jacket, and honestly like multiple coats and multiple jacket solutions potentially. I think of it as baby bear, mama bear, papa bear, and this jacket is probably in the mama bear range. It's kind of a pea coat, it's made by Filson, so it's wool and it's warm, but if it's really cold, this is not gonna really do the trick. You're gonna need something else. And then I'm gonna switch over to baby bear. This is probably something that I would consider in the baby bear range. It's a hoodie, right? Everybody knows what a hoodie is. It's a thick Carhartt hoodie in particular. I think there are several brands that are really sort of like workwear heavy, where this is a heavier hoodie than a lot of the places you might get a hoodie. A chore coat or like a work coat would be another perfect example of something you could wear for your baby bear. There's probably a ton of footage of me walking around in that kind of a coat on this channel. And then this would be baby bear and mama bear combined, right? So this is that Filson overcoat with the Carhartt underneath. I probably wouldn't wear this because it's a black hoodie and like navy overcoat, whatever, you get the point. And then I actually don't have what I would consider the papa bear on me. I do have it, but yeah, I don't have it with me for this video. This one in particular, I got in Iceland. I love it. It's wildly comfortable. There are a ton of American brands that really do a great job with that type of a winter coat. A few that come to mind would be Columbia, North Face, Canada Goose if you're trying to go extra expensive. But yeah, you can find really incredible winter coats all over the place, especially in Minnesota. And this coat that I'm wearing, this is like the Filson wool one, mama bear. This is probably daily driver. This is the kind of weight that I would use on the daily because it's not too like oppressively heavy. It's not noisy, right? Too noisy of a jacket is a little bit annoying. And I actually hate a bulky jacket in the car. I maybe have talked about that on this channel before. I can't stand the feeling of being in like a really overly cushy jacket while driving. It drives me crazy. So if I'm wearing a coat like that, if I'm wearing Papa Bear coat, I throw it in the back of my vehicle pretty much all the time. And in fact, mine actually just sits in the back of my vehicle all the time in the winter. I think of it more as like an emergency jacket because truthfully, I'm not outside for that long unless I know for sure that I'm going to be, or I would have to be in quite a pickle, at which point it's probably good to have it in my car. One really important aspect of the daily driver jacket is that it doesn't make you sweat too bad. If you get too sweaty inside the car and then you step out to a 0-degree day, you're gonna be way, way, way colder outside than you would have been had you been a moderate temperature, not sweating inside the car, and then you got out. Next up on the list is gonna be gloves. I think, again, you're gonna want a few varieties. I usually have maybe like 2 types of gloves. One that are honestly not that valuable, okay? Here's some Faribault Mill wool gloves. They are really good, but the open fingers, it's weird. I don't know how I feel about the open fingers in general because always the coldest part of the hand is gonna be the fingertips. So these do a good job, especially for driving when, say, you're holding a cold steering wheel or something like that. These are nice. If they had fingertips, they would be slightly better. If they were mittens, I think they would be even slightly better still, slightly warmer still. But there is a utility to something like this. And speaking of utility, these kind of gloves, it's all about utility. There's nothing cool to me about these gloves, if I'm being honest. They're probably even slightly too small for my hand. But this kind of glove is what I'm going to use if I'm shoveling snow or if I'm snow blowing my driveway or my sidewalk or something like that. I'm gonna have to be really cold and I'm gonna have to be outside for a long time to be wearing something like these, and probably gonna have to need the use of my hands before I ever find myself in gloves like these. But extremely valuable. You can be in 0 degree or below 0 and your hands should be pretty toasty with something like this. And then I think lastly would be maybe a slight upgrade from those Carhartt gloves, something like this. They're sort of mittens, but most people think of like wool or knit mittens. These are super mittens. I actually think of these as choppers. If they were made completely of leather especially, that's a proper chopper. No rhyme intended, but a chopper to me is like probably the creme de la creme of warmth as it pertains to gloves. You know, these are gonna go like quite a ways up your arm. They're gonna cover up your sleeve of your jacket and you can pull it tight. So if you have to be digging in the snow or anything like that, something like this is gonna really do a good job. And by the way, if you're new to this channel, my name is Jesse Lynch. I run the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To the Twin Cities. And this YouTube channel is all about helping you find a place, make a home here in the Twin Cities. And relocations is what we do, and it's what we do better than anybody else. It's what we have focused in completely on. It's what we're thinking about all the time, and we're solving unique problems to the relocation process. So if you're interested in working with us, go to our website, tothetwincities.com. There's a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less. And yeah, I promise, we will crush it for you, and we'll get things going from there. Back to the video. The next thing that cannot be understated is some good socks. I promise you. If you go from mediocre socks and switch into some nice socks, it will make a world of difference. Your extremities, right? Your fingertips, your toes. Those are the things that get the coldest and the most uncomfortable the quickest. So some good socks, very important. These are merino wool socks. I'm a big fan of merino wool because it wicks sweat away from your feet or from your body. So if your feet get sweaty driving, let's say, and then you go outside hiking, your feet should not be as sweaty as if you had a traditional wool sock or traditional cotton sock or something like that. These are from Duluth Trading Company. They are quite nice and quite usable, but they're pretty darn thin, all things considered. So one note that I would say about the wool sock is err on the side of too thick. These are probably lightweight to midweight. These are proper heavyweights. Again, merino wool and very thick and wildly comfortable for long periods of time if you're trying to keep your feet warm inside a pair of boots or shoes or whatever. Err on the side of too thick or buy a range. Next up on the list is a hat, right? A stocking cap, a winter cap. Some people call it a beanie, some people don't. Some people call it a toboggan, Canadians I think specifically. This is Carhartt. There's 1,000 brands of these. Yeah, these are very, very easy to find. But get a good one, if not a bunch of different colors, so that you don't feel like you have to wear the same stupid hat every single day. Otherwise, you could get something like this, a bit more Minnesotan perhaps, which it would have, this is not gonna fit my head, this is my fiance's, something like this, right? Very warm on the ears, way too small for my head. By the way, shout out to my fiance, Chris. A lot of this stuff I borrowed from her to make this video. Next item up on the list is what I think is an often underutilized piece of winter clothing, winter gear, if you will, which is the scarf. I think the scarf is potentially a game changer if you are feeling particularly cold in Minnesota winters. There's a bunch of ways to do it, obviously. You can go another time around or whatever, but this area of the human body, it can really release a lot of heat. And if you can just put a scarf on to cover that up, I think it's like sort of the cherry on top of staying warm. If you have all of these other things and you don't have a scarf yet, throw a scarf on, and pretty much there's no way you're not going to be warm. Next up on the list is going to be boots, right? I think there's two kinds of boots that are very important to most people moving to Minnesota. This more daily driver, let's call them cool guy boots, right? And then you have what I think are completely not cool guy boots. They're very utilitarian, they're very clunky, they're not particularly convenient to use, but they're proper snow boots, right? And they will keep you warm, especially if you have to be walking in deep snow or outside for a very, very long period of time. And pro tip, make sure they're waterproof boots. If they're not waterproof, they're basically useless. Next up, we're just being cozy here. These are slippers. I might even put these on while I shoot this video, just because they're so darn cozy. Slippers are sometimes called house shoes, and it's basically just a really warm shoe that you can wear inside and you don't have to feel bad about it. The next two we're doing together, and this is basically just a fight against dry skin. We're talking Chapstick. This is Berts Bees Chapstick, and we're talking hand lotion. Specifically, this is just O'Keeffe's Working Hands, which I love, I'm obsessed with. And this stuff I pretty much swear by. It's just about the only thing that will keep my hands reasonably not too dry in the winter. Then we're gonna move on to a section just about things to have for and or in your car. First of all, I don't have props to show you what I'm talking about, but your car needs to have a heater, okay? And the heater has to work pretty well. Otherwise, you're gonna be miserable. And I've actually driven cars without heaters in the winter. I actually drove a motorcycle in 0-degree weather to work when I was like 21, because I was dumb, and it was the only vehicle I had at the time. So a heater, of course, and then all-season tires. Again, how funny would it be if I had like a tire? Yeah, you know, all-season tires, not like general use tires. Snow tires are great. That's an upgrade beyond the all-season tires, but most cars will be usable with good all-season tires with reasonable tread left on them. Every year at the beginning of winter, in the first few snowfalls, you find out who doesn't have good tires on. You know, you find out who's not prepared because they've spun out on the highway, they're in the ditch, or they just rear-ended somebody at a traffic light, you know, going 3 miles an hour because they couldn't stop. And then, of course, windshield wipers that actually work. I don't know why anybody deals with bad windshield wipers. They're not that expensive, and they make a huge difference in the snow, in the rain, of course. If you're still watching, remember there's a giveaway involved in this, and it's gonna include quite a bit of stuff. So far, we don't have that much, admittedly. We have O'Keeffe's Working Hands, hand lotion, hand balm, and we have Chapstick. Not that crazy, but this is windshield washer fluid, but not your blue stuff from wherever you're coming from, where there's not all this cold weather. This is the purple stuff, and this will not freeze nearly as quickly as the blue stuff. In fact, I don't think I've ever had purple windshield wiper fluid ever freeze, ever. By the way, this is part of the giveaway. This next one is a big one, and it's honestly ubiquitous with winter and winter in Minnesota in particular. This is the ice brush and ice scraper combo. This end, great for ice, right? Scraping ice off windshield and side windows. Don't scrape it off the painted part of your car. Maybe obvious, but maybe not. This, great for brushing snow off of the roof, off of the window before you scrape, right? And in particular, also part of the giveaway, by the way, I prefer one where you can turn this guy to the side and it can sort of act as like a broom, right? To where you can do that kind of thing. And terrible noise, okay? This one has an extension, so you can reach way across the windshield and you don't necessarily have to walk on all sides of the car. If you don't have one of these and you're even on the way to Minnesota, right? You're driving here to move here, make sure you get one. Most truck stops, at least in reasonably northern climates, will sell things like these. Well worth the money. Then a very good idea for something to keep in your car is what's just kind of known as like a collapsible car shovel, right? This one kind of goes from small to slightly smaller, and this could be extremely valuable if you happen to find yourself in a big snowstorm with maybe tires that aren't doing that great, or like a front wheel drive car, and you don't have a shovel because you're not at home. Well, you do have one now, and this fits in a trunk pretty easily. Chuck it in the back of the trunk and you'll be glad you did. Also part of the giveaway. And then the final item included in the car section, more or less, is an emergency kit entirely. The particular item that we're including in the giveaway and that I think is really worth having above maybe everything else are jumper cables. That said, if you have a new car, you might be like, I'm not gonna need jumper cables. My battery's not gonna turn off. I think of this, carry these around a little bit more as like the Good Samaritan, right? Like, I'm pretty sure my car is not gonna have that problem. But if somebody needs these really bad, I'd like to be able to provide them. In general, that emergency kit should probably also include a jacket, right? I put my heaviest jacket in my car in case of emergencies, or even an extra one, right? Just keep it in the trunk or wherever, the back seat, just in case you have to. Some people would want to do road flares, cones, a jack, things like that. To me, that's just any preparedness, right? That has nothing to do with the winter. The jacket and the jumper cables do, because cars are way more likely to have a battery go bad in the cold of winter. It's just a fact. And then the final section of this video, we're talking about things that you're gonna want to have at your house to be prepared for winter. And again, this is the utilitarian video. This is the stuff that is bare necessities. You really gotta have it, or things are gonna be annoying at your house. And the giveaway does include one extra luxury item because I like it and I wanted to give it away. So let's start with ice melt. This in particular is pet safe ice melt. There's no salt in it actually, so I don't know, it's witchcraft or something like that, but it's safe for pets, it's safe for their paws, and presumably, maybe less bad if they ingest it or something like that. But I really do think that getting the pet safe ice melt is kind of the more responsible neighborly thing to do, because even if you don't have a pet, a dog in particular, one that walks outside, other people do, and you're likely going to be salting the sidewalk that all of the public uses. So some pet safe ice melt, get it, and this is included. Then look, here's the deal. You're gonna walk in the front door, your shoes are gonna be wet, they're gonna be full of salt and water and snow and probably sand as well. And if you walk onto even tile floor, that will eventually erode away at that tile, right? The salt and the sand, the grit, even a really good ceramic or slate tile, that will just start to make that look a little bit different. You'll be able to see a traffic pattern. I think one of the easiest things that you can get is an entry mat. This is a small one, but it's pretty universally usable, no matter the size of the house. It's with a rubber back in particular. This would probably be coming from a side entrance or a back entrance of a house in the city proper, or from the garage to inside the house if you have an attached garage. The rubber backing is a huge aspect of what makes this usable. You can step on it and that water isn't gonna soak through the rubber backing. It's gonna kind of sit on top of this. This is very cheap, like $5. It is part of the giveaway, but everybody should have one of these. And then you're gonna step your shoes onto that rubber backed pad, and then where are they gonna go? You can't just put it in front of the door. What are you, an animal? You're gonna need something like this, right? This is a boot tray. They call it a utility tray. This is where your shoes and your boots are going to live, right? Right off the door, typically, and it's made of plastic. The water from your boots is not going to soak into the flooring or whatever it is you have. Boot tray, again, like $5, worth its weight in gold. Then next up, I know this doesn't look that crazy on a black background. This is a space heater. There's a huge variety of space heaters. This is a simple one. This is something that my fiance uses pretty much daily in the winter. Puts it by her feet while she's reading or watching TV or something like that. And I run much warmer than her. So she can stay warm with this, and this doesn't have to bug me and make me feel too warm. So If you live with more than one person who have varying opinions about what is a comfortable temperature, a space heater is actually a very good idea. The last two things I'm talking about are both in the giveaway. They're definitely the biggest items involved in the giveaway, but I think they're just both so exceptional at what they are that I want to at least give one person, and I want to hype them in particular. First of all, we've got a shovel. Of course you're going to need a shovel. If you can get a snowblower, also cool, but you're going to need a shovel. And this shovel, called the Snow Plow, is pretty awesome. For one, it's pretty lightweight for how large it actually is. I'm actually going to back up so that you can see this whole thing. So it's the Snow Plow. This is a 24-inch plow. You can use this downward like this to scrape, let's say snow. I wouldn't scrape really thick ice with this, but you know, the first couple snow prints from somebody walking on it or from you walking out to the garage or something, this is a really effective little scraping tool for that. You also, if you break this element, you can replace it. If you break this element, you can replace it. Same with this and the handle. And again, for the size and for just how robust of a build it actually is for being pretty much entirely plastic, it's extremely solid. Actually, Impulse bought 2 of these for my house. I don't really know who I am anymore doing stuff like that, but this shovel is awesome. But at the end of the day, you need a shovel, whether it's a really heavy one with a metal blade and wood. If you're comfortable with that, cool. Or a little tiny one like a grandma, like my mom uses, that's also good and usable. It just does the job. The last item in the giveaway and in this video is a blanket from Faribault Mill. Faribault is a city in Minnesota. Faribault Mill is literally an internationally renowned woolen mill. They make beautiful blankets, a lot of them wool, not everything wool. This blanket in particular is wool. And I think a blanket, a throw blanket, is a must-have in Minnesota winters. Pretty much no matter where you live, you want a throw blanket of some sort. I think upgrading to something like a Faribault Mill wool blanket is a very wise idea. Plus, they're beautiful. They're basically timeless, in my opinion. And for the record, this is not an ad. I do not get anything for hyping Faribault Woolen Mill. I am just truly a big fan of what they do. I own multiple of them. And this is also part of the giveaway. So if you want this and everything else that we talked about being in the giveaway, there's just a few things you gotta do. Number one is you have to comment giveaway either in this comment section or in the Instagram comment section for the same video about this stuff. You have to subscribe to us on this YouTube channel. You gotta follow us on Instagram at To The Twin Cities and comment giveaway either in this YouTube video's comments or in the Instagram equivalent. And we're going to pick and announce the winner on Instagram on Friday, December 20th at noon. First of all, you're gonna need a Minnesota address that we can deliver this to, okay? These are pretty big items. We can't mail these things. They have to be delivered. And if you're on your way, if you're moving here in January or February, all good. We can wait until then. Just let us know when you're gonna live there. But we need a Twin Cities metropolitan area address so that we can deliver them there. Second, what you're gonna have to do is follow us on Instagram because we're gonna be announcing the winners Friday, December 20th at noon. So you're gonna have to be paying attention there. Otherwise, how are you gonna know? And then lastly, you just have to comment giveaway on this video or the Instagram equivalent. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.